Here at the Silver Fox Club, we believe that each one teaches one. Historically, silver foxes were among the most valued fur bearers worn by nobles beginning in the 10th century. With that in mind, we here at the Silver Fox Club use the phrase to describe a person or a company who exemplifies wisdom, tradition, and old school values. In our Silver Fox Club web series, our hosts sit down with extraordinary men and women who have developed high levels of skill and expertise in their chosen discipline. These silver foxes are celebrated for their lifelong education, their discipline, their diligence, and their willingness to share their wisdom with others. We hope you enjoy the series, and if you have any suggestions or if you wish to nominate a silver fox, please feel free to contact us at info@silverfoxclub.org.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we have with us Marilyn Horowitz. Marilyn is a writer, TV show creator, and a professor at New York University who has founded her own approach to screenplay writing called the Horowitz System. You can learn all about it in one of her several books, How to Write a Screenplay in 10 Weeks, The Horowitz System. You can find more of Marilyn's work at double-asterix.com and jokeonastick.com, where she talks animation, comedy, and how to make it all happen.
Hi there, and MarilynHorowitz.com is my regular teacher website.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Thank you.
So you can find me all over. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I may need to get on the couch after this interview, but we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, we could jump on in. I was thinking you could tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I've taught at NYU for 20 years, and it's my hobby. My job is I'm a writer, and I've also been a writing coach, and my students have been nominated for Emmys and Peabodys and such matters. And my regular students have been nominated for various awards and have been published by major publishers and so on and so forth. So it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And how did you first get into screenwriting?
Well, I went to NYU and back in the day, and I was probably one of the first women directors to make my own film, which later got sold to Showtime. And I realized that I wanted to write it, so I wrote it, and I made the film, and it got sold, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm a writer.
Isn't that just how it goes?
Or not?
Do you think you could tell us like a little bit about your system, obviously without giving it all away, but a little bit about your process of, I guess, more than creating the system you use to teach and that works for you now?
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, it would basically, I realized that the traditional way of teaching storytelling, regardless of whether it's screenplays or books, was flawed because the 3-act structure was not instructive enough. There was as long as So the idea of examining classic movies, classic books, I discovered that Act 2 was actually 2 different parts and that they had different dramatic functions in terms of pushing the story forward. Mm-hmm. So once I nailed that, I realized that it became very, very easy to structure stories. And I'm happy, I'm here to share this. So it's not like, oh, I'm not going to tell you unless you come to my webinar. No, it's really easy. The idea is that you have 4 parts of a story, and each of them are 4 magic questions. And the first one is, what is my main character's dream? Act 2, part 1 now becomes what happens in my main character's nightmare. So you have a flip. Mm. So if you're a screenwriter, you'll realize that you've already been able to structure loosely an hour of a potentially 2-hour traditional narrative American film. So then if you jump to Act 3, it's easy. Does the character achieve their dream or not? I gave a webinar last Wednesday on a site called Commonwealth, which it's an exciting site people should look at. I have nothing to do with it professionally, but it's a mixed media short form storytelling thing for young people. Mm-hmm. And the guy, Sidney Lau, who I'm going to put a plug in, is a remarkable man who has created mm-hmm. this thing. And I was so pleased to give class. But it was like I was giving a class to people who were, somewhere between, I guess maybe 12 and 30 or 25. And everybody understood exactly what the 4 magic questions did, how to use them. And then the questions I got asked were absolutely terrific and just like on the money. It was such a great experience and a confirmation that we already know how to do this, that it's just a question of acknowledging our nascent skill and just going, okay, I know jujitsu. I can do this. I can tell stories. I've been telling them all my life. So the writing method is like, you're a winemaker and you're starting all these crazy grapes in your story. How do you know that it's going to be received? The answer is you got to put it in a bottle. The four magic questions, the mythic journey map, and this particular way of organizing the structure acts as a recognizable wine bottle. And consider that genre is like different kinds of wine, just to use the metaphor. You know what I mean? If you're writing an action movie, it might be tequila. And if you're writing a romantic comedy, it might be, Vino Verdi or champagne or something. But I mean, it's a metaphor.
Exactly my choice.
Well, good. I like that. Oh, right. I have simple tastes. I only like the best. That's what Oscar Wilde said. So it's pretty straightforward if you're willing to apply this incredibly rare thing called common sense. That's the thing I'd like to bottle and sell with my books.
Yeah, that'd be good.
A famous writer said, we all know how to write a story until we actually have to sit down and do it.
Earlier on, you mentioned that teaching at NYU was like a hobby. So how did you find your way into being a professor?
Well, it's a good question, because this is why I believe in God, because God has a great sense of humor, because I am the person least likely. I am the most anti-authoritarian person. I don't like being bossed around. I've been my own boss for most of my life. And yet, I wrote a screenplay, I sold it, and then one of the gals who had helped me got pregnant and asked me if I would take over her class at the School of Visual Arts. Ooh. And I laughed and I said, this is God's idea of a joke. I said, I am the person least likely to teach. And she said, well, look, there were all these rebellious artists. You're going to be perfect. So I thought, okay, if I can share rather than teach, if I can, not preach, but share, I'll give it a shot. And so I went and I got hired, and how sometimes when you go through a doorway, I'm sure you've had this experience, suddenly people were coming up to me saying, well, Marilyn, can you fix my story? I'm like, how do you know I can fix your? I mean, it was one of those really odd things where people had discovered me before I had any idea of what I had to offer. And so it just was a natural evolution. So by the end of my first year of teaching, all my students had completed screenplays and had them read. Back in the day, they had readings at the Nuyorican Cafe, and we sort of were the first school to really get students to hear their work, because my understanding of writing is that until you hear it, you can't know it. That's another thing. Read your story aloud. You'll find out. And it just, by the end of that year, I had a full coaching practice, and I was teaching at SVA. And then in a couple of years, I was asked to come teach at NYU, and I was there for a long time, and I'm still there. And it's just sort of this, if you're lucky, your purpose finds you. You don't have to find it. So I was blessed. I was blessed, really.
My next question would be if you could tell us a little more about jokeonastick.com.
That's what I really, I'm so excited about. So Joke on a Stick is a website where you go to laugh, right? And our motto is a laugh anytime. Any laugh anytime, right? We keep fooling around with it. And the conception was that my writing partner and I had created 4 full-length animated shows. He's also an artist. And when we went to pitch them around Hollywood, it was very clear that we were not going to get the kind of treatment that we wanted, as first timers. And it was like, oh, well, great. So you're writers, right? So we're going to get a character artist in here. We're like, no, we're animators. It's our thing, like South Park or whatever. It's a complete thought. The characters are our characters. And my writing partner is a voice artist, and I've been studying voice, so I'm able to do some of the voices, adequately, I would say. And so we became sort of like a 2-man band. And what we realized was that we had to find a way to let people know what we could do, because it was not like anybody else's. I mean, and some of this is my, I've produced a couple of independent features. In other words, I have that side. I come from 2 generations of movie lawyers. My grandfather, Charlie, was Charlie Chaplin's best friend, and he did all the paperwork for United Artists, and he represented, a lot of very famous people. And
Wow.
my father was one of the founders of MTV.
Super cool.
Right.
That's really cool.
And I'm sorry about the lawnmower. So shall I walk inside, or is
Um,
this okay?
yeah, maybe take it inside. Yeah, just so it's not bothering.
So is this okay?
Perfect.
Okay, great. So anyway, so what I was saying was that joke on a stick. The intention, because of our experience pitching this, was that we had to find a way to establish ourselves as who we are, which is creators. We're not
Uh-huh.
writers. We're not artists. We're not voiceover actors. We're creators. This is our baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you subscribe to Joke on a Stick, what you get is you get four jokes with a verbal wraparound, which we call an episode. So when you
Mm-hmm.
subscribe, you get an episode with 4 jokes that no one else has ever seen in your inbox. And meanwhile, if you watch us on Instagram, we're getting like 28,000 views. You know, we got 150,000 views last week.
Congratulations. That's
And
great.
we've been at this for like 4 or 5 months. So it's a good, I think we're excited that it's a really good sign that,
Yes.
that we, you know, that we're kind of, that our aim is kind of good. And, you know, we people laugh. I mean, as I said, you know, in the beginning of our talk, that to me, part of the reason that I shifted over to the short form is I think that's the direction where we're going. I think that people are looking on their phones. I think that hopefully, you know, we're going to want to connect with each other more. So we're not going to spend quite as much time binge watching long things that will, you know, create more time to be with each other, maybe not on our phones, possibly. And that the short form is also sort of more conducive to where we are. It's a more conversational. So I felt that was important to explore because it interested me. And the other part of it was I really think that the cure for the world's ills has always been laughter, will always be laughter. And so, you know, the idea that you can come to a website and be sure that you can have a joke anytime, right? Our motto, any joke anytime, is, you know, is kind of where, you know, my interest shifted to. It's not that, I mean, I just finished a novel, so it's not like I don't work in the different forms. And, you know, at any given week, I'm teaching a screenwriting class, and I'm working with a student on a TV pilot. So I enjoy the working in these different mediums. And of course, the connecting link is that we like our stories told a certain way in a certain shape.
Absolutely. I mean, other than your novel that you finished, what was that, yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
Do you have any exciting projects that are coming up that you can talk about?
Well, yeah, the thing I'm most excited about is now taking Joke on a Stick to a new level. And now we're going to actually write, we're going to add, now that we have our episodes, and that's what you get. But the next thing you'll get in a couple of months, once you subscribe, is access to these series. So Tilk will be a series. We have another one about an Uber driver that's based on a friend of mine whose uncle is a West Indian Uber driver. And my friend is his name is Christopher Grant. He's a voiceover actor, and he's a wonderful voiceover actor. So he will voice the character. And basically, you know, the idea is it Beresford, that's the name of the character, drives to the airport. And because of the way my partner and I work, we have a tremendous number of animation assets because we did trailers for our various series. So we're rich with the ability to create a 2-minute animated a show with not much effort, and we're basically a 2-man band. So we've been doing it a long time, and I think that's the thing I'm excited about. Again, creating, you know, the Joke on a Stick brand and channel, and having it be something that people share. And you know, someone sent me a clip, and they didn't realize that it was me, and they said, "Hey, did you see this?" And I'm like,
"No,
yeah, I wrote it." You know,
isn't that great though?
It was pretty great. It was a pretty great feeling. And what we love is when we go to our YouTube channel, and again, everything is in startup. So we're not exactly where we're going to be in a couple months. You know, I'll get you know, feedback from people I don't know, you know, it'll be like, "Oh, this is really hilarious." You know, it's so gratifying.
Yeah.
As
You can make people smile.
Well, every time you smile or you laugh, you push back darkness, you know.
For real.
Right. That's our theme. You know, you change the one, you change the many. So every time you laugh, someone else doesn't cry. You know, I mean, everything we do means a lot. And, you know, artists are the people who will help people remember what's important to them. And in this time of the pandemic and all this other, you know, upheaval that we're going through, for people to kind of be their own true north.
Right.
right, is the way to be able to, it's like we're living in the Wizard of Oz. You got to look and see who's behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
A movie that I really recommend to people is called Sullivan's Travels. It's an old movie from the 40s by a director named Preston Sturges. And basically the premise is a comedy director wants to do serious work, and he has to prove that he understands what trouble is because he's very privileged. And he does such a good job that he ends up with amnesia on a chain gang. And you think that's going to be the end of him. And but what happens is they take all the convicts to watch Disney cartoons. And he sits there and he watches all these really, really crazy, bad people laughing. And he has this epiphany. He says, oh, my God, sometimes all people have is laughter. And he remembers who he is. He goes back to Hollywood. He commits himself to making people laugh. And I think that movie is probably why I was inspired to turn to comedy and now want to promote and expand and share jokes. Because maybe in times like this, all we have is laughter.
That was beautiful. Absolutely, yeah. Laughter really sometimes can be what we need, and very human and very connecting.
Very good. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.